Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of It Might Be You. Today I have Stacy Gissal, and we are going to be discussing feminine energy and tapping into your intuition. How are you today, Stacy?
I am so good. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you. Um, I have kind of been stalking your Instagram, and it's just so fun. It's so fun. So I was like, just the energy that I get from seeing your Instagram, I was like, oh, she would be such a fun person to talk to. So,
Aw, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot. One of my core values is fun. So, because I had spent most of my life not having any. So,
oh, yeah, then I understand. I understand. I'm trying to have more fun in my life, so I get that. So let's just get right into it. And I want to ask you, what, if any, was your "it might be me" moment that you knew you needed to switch your path, or was it anything in particular?
ooh. So it's interesting because I feel like for me it wasn't necessarily like one giant aha moment. And I think that for for me and for a lot of people and a lot of the women that I actually work with is that we would live in kind of this Amazon Prime world, right? Where we want everything in a day or two to happen. And now it's becoming like an hour delivery. I can't even believe that. But I always say that like transformation very rarely happens and it feels like a lightning strike, right? Like that's not the way it works. It's more like a bunch of annoying little like pulses that happen, like electrical pulses that happen. And then before you know it, you look back and you are somebody completely different. Than well, and I wouldn't like when I say different, I don't mean that you're a different person. It's more like I think transformation is actually more about peeling back the onion and removing a lot of things and becoming who you've always been, but you covered up for a long time, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah, I think for me, I wasn't always like this. The woman that you see on Instagram, it wasn't that wasn't that wasn't who I believed I was for a long time. I spent a lot of my life living from achievement to achievement, trying to prove myself and my worth to the people around me. And I do remember that there was a moment that I had a great education. I had a nursing background. I was running two successful businesses. I had a supportive husband. I had amazing friends, amazing family. We lived on a lake. I had like what women would look at as like the perfect body sitting there with a six pack and all. And I was sitting at my counter, my kitchen counter, and I was miserable.
Mm.
In this world where I should have been happy, I was anxious. I was unhappy. I was living a life that I felt like I needed to escape from. And it really felt like I was broken. Like there was obviously something wrong with me. And so for anybody that's listening who might feel that way, you're not broken. You're not broken. It's just a matter of I realized I had to, it was in, and again, it wasn't at that exact moment, but that might have been the launch point of I realized that I really had to focus on the one thing that was actually going to change my life. And that was me.
Yeah.
That was me. And so I embarked on a really powerful path of self discovery and starting to step into my unique power and purpose. And that way I could finally have the impact on the world that I always knew within me was there. I just wasn't exactly sure how to tap into it. And so that's, I guess, how I got here, helping women do that exact same thing, like helping them create lives that set their soul on fire and make them excited to live every day.
Awesome. And that onion that yeah, it's that just kind of resonated with me because, over the last couple of weeks being in this class where we were pulling back the layers of our mind and getting down to identities that we've adopted over time, I just realized that, good Lord, I've had I've held on to a lot of things that I wish I would have let go that I know have held me back. Um, and I know that a lot of people listening can relate to that. And just not having that, I don't know, the tools to get to that point. So, what exactly did that journey look like for you when you realized that, okay, I need to focus on me? Um,
Mm.
was there any type of modality that you picked, or did you just fully immerse yourself into change?
Well, let me tell you this. It took a lot longer than it had to, because one of the personas or the identities that I like to wear, that I used to like to wear, and this is something I just want, like sometimes the shadow aspects of ourself are not bad, right? They're not something that somebody would look at you and say like, well, that's not a good quality. But one that was, they're the things that get in our way. And for me, that was, I wore the label of independence. I was independent. And ooh, buddy, did you know where that got me? That got me having to take years to sort through things on my own because I refused to ask for help. I believed that I could do it all on my own. And so with that, that was just to say that sometimes like the thing I would say that I learned from that journey is don't try to do it on your own. And so I finally did actually hire a coach. And what actually got me into this, which is interesting, was um my health. Because like I said, on the outside, I looked like the epitome of health, like what somebody would think. And but on the inside, I was crumbling and my body had stopped producing certain hormones and different things. So I I knew that it wasn't a surface level problem.
Mhm.
And so I did hire a coach. She was a health coach to help me sort through some of those. But now this is my favorite thing is that the that was still an external solution to an internal problem. I was looking for an external solution for something to bridge this gap for something that my soul was calling for, if that makes sense. So over and so I kept looking outside of myself. It was I read so many books. I read so many books. I listened to so many podcasts and I listen not that I like I love all of those things. I love to learn, but I kept looking for everyone else to give me the answer as to what was missing within me. And through that process, I actually became even more disconnected from myself because now even though I realized that I had to work on me, what I was doing was I was taking everybody else's thoughts and ideas and all of that and I was just gathering information um and I wasn't using that knowledge and applying it in my own life and experimenting with it. And that kind of led me to a place where I felt even more lost, right? Like before I saw the light, I think I would say I felt even more lost because I was like, okay, like everybody has different ideas. What do I do? And what I have learned from that process is that one of the biggest mistakes that I see women make, and this is actually what I help women do, is get really familiar with who they are, understand themselves at a such an intimate level that you realize that you have everything within you to make the decisions to you're the only one who knows what's best for you. And
Right.
I know that we're not really taught that.
No, not at all.
We're taught the opposite, right? We're taught that we actually don't know what's best for us.
Yeah.
That's what we grow up hearing is that as women, we don't know what's best for us. So,
Yeah. And well, you just said a mouthful with that. Um, just looking back, one of the things that I think I've had to shed is um, in childhood being told, you're supposed to be seen but not heard. Um,
mm,
and I think as women, sometimes we internalize that, and that's how you lose touch. Um, and then you look up and you're 30 and you don't know yourself because you've had this thought or you've been told just sit there and be pretty. You don't need to wear your pretty little head. Just we'll take care of it.
mm.
Um, yeah.
when we've lived in a man's world for a long time. So, and what I say with that, this is not, I love men, do not get me wrong. It's just that men and women truly, like, God didn't create us to be the same. He created us to be different, right? And so there's a reason behind that, but we've kind of, um, we have grown up with, like what you said, is so many women, they don't have confidence. They have such a, their solar plexus isn't balanced, which is where we hold our confidence, just in case you don't know that. But because, and here's the thing, is that sometimes our confidence is stripped from us, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes we give it away because we start to believe the stories that we've been told. And if there's nothing else that you take from this, if you're listening, it's that everything that you, just about everything that you have been taught, like, or that you think, you've been taught by the people, the environments, and all of that around us. Like, we're born these perfect little unique amazing souls, and then over the years, our parents, our teachers, our friends, our environments, our religion, intentionally or unintentionally shift and shape your belief systems, your habits, and the stories you have about the world, but more importantly, the stories you have about yourself, right? So we are taught what we are and are not capable of, what we should and shouldn't do. Like you just said, like, don't be too loud, right? I was told that all the
Yes.
time. Like, don't shine too bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't, like, one of the things I still have to kind of correct my mother on is if she sees a woman who's very opinionated, she's uncomfortable with that. Oh, she's just too loud. She shouldn't say that. Why? That's her opinion. That's her model of the world. Let's accept that. You may not be able to relate to that, but that's what she views as important. So don't silence that. Um, and, I like loud, boisterous, opinionated people. We need more of that. And I feel, especially with women, because, like you said, we do live in a man's world. Um, and I'm a lover of men too, but I would really like to see more women step into that feminine energy, um, and display that more. So, with that, how did you step into yours, or how did you really start to recognize, your power?
Yeah. No, I love that question. And I just want to, something to touch on is that I think that the problem that sometimes happens is that as women, we don't utilize the feminine energy. What we do is we try to act more like men to be seen.
Hmm.
And that's something that I would love to see change, because when you think of Joan of Arc, like, if you know the story, Joan of Arc, the only reason that she was able to accomplish what she did was because she was a woman, not because she was trying to act like a man. And I think that that is an important distinction, is that as women we have different superpowers. And so it's sometimes when we feel the need to come across and be loud and be seen in certain aspects, we have to dig within ourselves and say, is that because that's truly who I am? Or is this a facade that I'm putting on because I feel like I need to prove
Hmm.
myself, and I feel like I need to act like a man in order to make a difference. And quite honestly, this is something that I have really had to work through. Is that it's okay. Like, there's we preach, but we preach in a very different way, right? Like, we preach in a very, your feminine energy is more subtle. It's more okay being like, not having to get the credit for something if you know that you're making the impact. And again, this has been a hard journey for me to learn. So don't think I'm over here like on my high horse or anything, because man, I've lived the other way too, very in the masculine, very needing to show my confidence.
The
But
ego.
the
It's against
yeah,
given. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Like right in it, very much so, like the ego driven thing. So for me, learning about that feminine energy, I lived so I've done both, right? I have been, and for those of you who don't understand, like the male, feminine and masculine energy has nothing to do with being male or female. We are all born with a balance of masculine and a balance of feminine. It should be kind of a like you might go a little bit towards one or the other, but really, if we're balanced, we should have an equal split of these two things. And so men should have it and so should women, but the masculine is very much the doing, right? It's the doer. That's the best way that I can describe it, but that's where a lot of the confidence comes from. That's where caregiving comes from. That's where just being able to like take action on things and have boundaries on things, like a lot of that comes from having like that masculine energy. But where we tend to struggle in our whole society is the feminine, and the feminine is more about it's in the being. It's
Mm,
something that it's not logical, it's more intuitive. It is not like, it's a feeling that you have within you, not something that you think in your head, if that makes sense. So it's more about it's definitely more subtle, it's more gentle, but it's where the magic happens for people. So for me, I would say that understanding these two energies, like energy is literally our number one asset, but most people don't know how to work with it.
yeah.
And I had to go through the experience of being so masculine, like go, 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 go. And then I went through the experience of being super feminine, where I thought all I had to do was think about things and they would happen, which is bullshit. That doesn't happen either. So,
No,
and then it was through that experimentation. And that's something that really want listeners to hear is life happens, like wisdom is created through experimentation. It is created in the trying things out and seeing how they work for you. So, energy for me is the bridge between the body and the mind. Some people will call energy woo woo. Some people will call it voodoo. Some people call it witchcraft, like which I've been called that before. I call it the missing link
oh, I
because
like
the right, like because the thing is, like you can think something to happen or change all day long, and it won't happen. You can take all the messy action in the world and do more and more and more and more and achieve more and more and more, and things won't happen either. Why? Because you aren't looking between those two things. You aren't paying attention to the energy behind your thoughts or the energy behind the action and merging the vision and the thought with the action. And it takes energy to do those two things, right? So when we can learn to balance and shift our energy, everything else will start to shift around you without it having to be so freaking hard.
yeah, yeah, because wow, yeah. You just touched on some stuff that we've talked like about a lot this past couple weeks about um, when you're in tune with your energy and you're aware of how it affects others and yourself. Like I know that I'm someone who um, has to be kind of protective of my energy because I take on a lot and I get drained very quickly. And if I don't have a chance to recharge my batteries, then my body starts to manifest hives and all these things. And I'm like, okay, I haven't taken care of me. And that's where, the intuition has to pop in that it's okay to be there for other people. But like you said, you had to focus on you. Um, and I know that for me, being raised in a Christian household, um, when I started to get into these things, it was that's woo woo or that's witchcraft. You better be careful. You're going to open yourself up to spirits and things and all these. And so it scared me. But then I was like, The only thing, or the only reason why you say that is because you don't have an understanding of it. And I love the way that you just explained it. So for anybody that's listening that maybe can relate to what I'm saying about being raised in a certain type of environment where you were told that it's wrong or whatever, take what she said and just apply it to that. I know it's hard, but you just gave me a light bulb moment with, yeah, it is. It's just doesn't have to be negative. Um,
No, and just because something is different and something we haven't tried before doesn't make it a and I wish that we could stop putting like negative and positive just like labels on things.
yeah,
Because quite honestly, I had this conversation with my best friend because she is very much Christian based, which is totally fine. So here's the thing. I didn't grow up with a religion, which I used to struggle with. That actually used to really because I was like, again, I must be broken because everybody else has one. But I had a love-hate relationship with going to church. I loved going to church because I could always pull something from the message. But what the church stood for and the separation that came from it, I just couldn't. I was like, I don't understand this. Like there's something missing. So here's what I'm like saying is that, and therefore, I believe now that not having a religion growing up, not being told what I should believe, has actually opened up so many doors because I get to look around and I get to read different Bibles and I get to look at different religions and I get to look at all these different things and I get to pull the pieces that make sense and that are true for my heart. Like what really makes sense for me. And I actually have been reading a book called Mary Magdalene Revealed. And if you have never read this book, if you're open-minded to it really talks about the feminine in Christianity. It is what Christianity was before the church got a hold of it. And it's a very different religion or viewpoint than sometimes what is portrayed and what it's been turned into. And so back to what I was talking about with my friend, like she doesn't quite understand this aspect of me, this feminine part, this like, and one of the things that really she was getting hung up on was the oracle cards. So if you're not familiar with oracle cards, and it was really funny because I was like, well, let's talk about that. And so for anybody's listening who's like, oh gosh, like as soon as like if you cringe at the words of anything, like there's a trigger there that there might be a belief system that we're holding on to a little too deeply. But when I talk to her about it, it is my belief, and you don't have to believe this, but I just want you to hear my outtake on this is that um God speaks to us. I believe that God is within every single one of us. We are not separate from God. We are one. And that is, we are not separate from Jesus. We are one, like he is within every single one of us. And um, I believe that we are being spoken to all day long. We are being given messages all day long. And that can be through the form of a person, a stranger on the street. That can be a friend that says the right thing. That could be the music lyrics that you hear at just the right time that really speak to your heart. It could be a card. It could be an oracle card. And it could also be the Bible when you open it up and the passage that you needed to hear was sitting right there waiting for you to read it. And I think that that is where, and again, I don't live my life based on what a card says, but what I do live my life by is I hold that card to my heart. And what speaks to me and what my own heart is telling me is what I allow to guide the decisions that I make. So I don't know if that was helpful, but
it does. And so, like with that, having friends that may have been raised uh, in a predominantly Christian household, um, how did she react to your explanation of that?
I think she has to process it. I think that and that's the thing is that we just as much as I don't want people um to expect me to act a certain way. I don't expect that of others either. And sometimes we have to process things like that. And especially if it does go in and if it doesn't feel like it aligns with something that you've hung on to for 40 plus years, like you're going to have to sit with that and you're going to have to kind of dissect it. And so I guess um don't take it personal
Yeah.
is like the biggest thing that I can say. Like if somebody's open to hearing your point of view, don't take it personal, but also don't feel like you have to defend yourself. And that's where that feminine energy again comes from, because when something is so true for you in your heart, it's okay that not everybody believes what you do. It's okay that people have different opinions, but you don't need to defend yourself by any means for what you believe, because you're not asking other people to do that.
Right. Yeah. I
So,
think it comes with having a mutual respect for each other's model of the world,
mhm,
and still understanding that you can maintain your friendships and relationships as you grow into whoever it is that you're becoming. Um, because I know that who I was last year is not who I am now. And that, oracle cards, tarot cards. In the past, I remember I was 18 and I was visiting my best friend's older sister, and she pulled out the tarot cards, and me and my best friend like were freaked out, like, what are you doing? That's witchcraft. And we were, like I said, raised, or my best friend is a pastor's kid. Um, but something just said, let her do it. You don't really know what this is. You don't really have understanding. And when she broke it down that it's not witchcraft, it's not this, it's not that, it made me feel much more comfortable. And so now, I've bought my own tarot cards and stuff. I'm not that savvy in it, but I understand the message behind it now, and how you can
mhm,
use it.
yeah.
Um, and so it's not scary. It's not all these things that I was taught. And I definitely was not taught about energy. That's not something that, we heard and about.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because it's actually very scientific, which is kind of like I never talk like again, I don't feel the need to defend what I believe, but it's kind of funny because like is like energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed is like one of like the biggest scientific things out there. And when you think about this, what if no matter what you believe, when you are speaking to Jesus, you're speaking to his energy, right?
Yeah.
We're not speaking to his person. And when you die, what goes to heaven? Because it's
Mm.
not right? Like it's not our physical body. It's the energy of our soul. And so I think that it's just kind of funny because again, we have to be willing to open our eyes and see things a different way. Um, but I will say that the reason that I'm so passionate about this and why I work with energy, so because okay, truly, Leah, 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more now, probably 8 months ago, if you would have told me that I would be sitting here having this conversation and also do, like, energy work on people, I would have laughed in your face because that's not where I thought that my life was going. But what I have realized is that understanding and being able to shift our energy brings about change that alters your entire being. And when that happens, the world starts to shift around you. It's more spontaneous, it's more clear, it's more fun. And yes, it is more magical. But just because something is magical doesn't mean that it's not true. Magic exists. We've been taught to not look for it. So and the transformation that I have seen and the impact that I have seen some of the work that I've done with women, um, has been more magnificent than sometimes I can even understand. Like, people have had the courage to finally quit their jobs. They've done complete 180s in their business. They've reconciled relationships. They've dropped the shame and the guilt that held them back. They're not afraid to use their voice anymore. Some of the stressors in their life go away. Like, they start businesses, just miracle after miracle, miracle kind of unfolds for them. But what I want to say, well, as I say that, is this doesn't just happen to them, right? It is an active process that happens because they're willing to shift their mind, their body. And the thing that we miss in Western and just about everything that we do is their spirit.
Yeah.
When we can learn to focus on the mind, the body, and the spirit all as one, as if every religion has ever taught us, like, life can become so much easier and a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah. And I and you're right. I mean, if you want change in your life, you have to be aligned on all three of those levels. And we are not taught how to be in alignment. A matter of fact, it's more with all the outer exterior things that we're bombarded with every day. It's more like we're so disaligned. We don't know um, how to get into alignment. And that's why so much dis-ease comes into your life and you feel stuck and you don't know how to get out of that rut because we don't have the tools or just don't have an understanding until we kind of hit rock bottom.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just unfortunate. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know that there are women out there listening that just this is going to resonate with. And it's like, okay, that might be why, I'm not able to move forward and why I feel so
Mhm.
stuck.
Well, and it's kind of cool because when you think about, like like you said, disease within the body only occurs because there is some that because we are out of alignment and in like some facet, but we only look at the surface level. The reality is when something manifests in your body physically, it's only because we have spent so much time ignoring it at an energetic level.
Mm,
It has to go through the energy centers of our body first, and then the when our emotions and our feelings and certain things and like get stuck within our body, then it starts to manifest itself in the physical. And now we have no choice but to pay attention to it. But then we put band-aids on it. Right? This is Western medicine. Again, and like I have a nursing background, and I'm not against anything. Like, I'm just saying that we miss the most important part of the puzzle, which is the spirit part. It is changing. You have to be willing to completely revamp your life, not just take a pill or lose some weight or do this or do that, because like it will only work for so long until that problem that we haven't actually brought to the surface and worked through comes back up and it manifests in just a different way later on.
yeah. And see, and like I said, I wouldn't have known any of this had I not started going down my journey and then realizing, sheesh, like when I was, I guess it was my late 20s, um, I started having really bad allergies. Never had allergies to before, ever. And I would just make jokes when I was at work. Uh, I just must be allergic to work. That must be it. But it was because I wasn't in alignment. Um, the energy that was in the building that I was constantly bombarded with was horrible. And then I was so busy, stuck in trying to be um, masculine. That's what it is. And I know that now. I recognize it. I wanted to be the head honcho, and I had to be, felt like I had to be loud and boisterous, and so that I could get the attention, so I could keep moving up and not tap it into my feminine energy, which would have been more beneficial, I think, had I known back then what I know now.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, and you know, we got to treat our past selves like ancestors, right? Like we didn't we didn't know better, and so we don't beat ourselves up over that. It's just like man, yeah, if I would have known what I know now 5, 10 years ago, holy smokes. But that's why we're here. We're here to learn lessons and to strengthen these aspects of ourselves. But what I love that you said is that, like, the key, and this is the thing that I see so many women, I mean, men do this probably actually more extravagantly than women, but I don't know, like, I'm just speaking to women at the moment. The key that I see so many women miss is that they don't take the time to really get to know themselves
Mhm.
and to get extremely intimate with who they are. And like, you were able to look and say, what is my body telling me?
Yeah.
So many people don't have that. Like, they're so caught up in the rat race of life that they don't feel like they have the time to listen to what, like, our body is always, it will tell us exactly what we need all day long. We just rarely take the time to listen.
Yeah. Or we, like you said, put band-aids on it.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
and that's like one of the biggest, I guess, things for me is I'm not somebody that likes to go and take a lot of medicines to cover up the ailments. I want to figure out how I can fix it. Let's not put a band-aid on it. Let's fix it. And a lot of it is now knowing, like I said, knowing what I know is that there's something going on in my body that I'm not aligned with.
Mhm.
And so that's why I'm such like an avid EFTer now. And I teach people how to do EFT because I'm like, you might have that headache because there's something blocking the energy in your body somewhere. So let's fix that.
Mhm.
Um, and the other day, I had the pleasure of teaching a lady how to do EFT who had been having neck pain, like extreme neck pain for 3 years. And I took her through a tapping session, and her eyes just lit up. I don't have pain anymore. I don't know how you did that. I said, I didn't do anything. You did it. I just showed you, how. And I know some people may not believe in that, like
Mhm.
that's not gonna work. But um I was one of those people, like I said, anything to do with energy, I was like, that mess don't work. I'm not doing that until I opened up and got open minded and allowed myself to learn new things.
Yeah. Well, and just try. Like, this is
Yeah.
what's so funny in our world. Everybody's so afraid. Like, we're so afraid because, like, what is the worst case scenario? Like, you're in the same place that you are right now. Like, okay. Like you're literally living your worst case scenario right now, but you're not willing to try anything different. And sometimes you have to wonder, and I mean, I know this, and nobody wants to be miserable, but often it's easier. It feels easier to just continue to suffer in our lives rather than have to flip ourselves inside out and figure out what's really going on. And people can get kind of fearful of that. Like, what am I going to find? What am I holding on to? Like, and there, it's nothing to be scared of, because all everything is created out of darkness. Everything. Like, we think about the womb, like that is where creation happens, and it is completely dark, and it is just a really beautiful place for creation. But even light is created out of darkness. So if we're not willing to go and sink into the shadow aspects of ourselves, then you're not going to make a change in your life, and you will live in the same repetitive cycles. And if you're okay with that, then kudos to you, I guess. But I don't think that
Yeah.
most people are. They're just not willing to ask for help.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I was like you. I took pride in being independent. I thought it was the right thing. Like I'll figure it out myself. And when I got married and realized how that identity was pushing my husband away, in some aspects, like I had to take a step back and like, okay, how can I change this? Um, because I don't have to be independent anymore. I have a partner in life. I don't have to put everything on my shoulder. But I think it was just a hard lesson for me to have to learn, because it was a point of pride, because I looked at the women in my life who were all strong, independent, um, but some of them weren't married. And so it's like, okay, I can't, they almost had to be that way. They had to be that
Mm.
way. I don't have to be that way anymore. Now I still, of course, tap into that, because I never just relinquish my independence completely. But I noticed the shift when I did start being more feminine, because my mom used to tell me, ask him for help sometime. It could just be something simple. You don't have to do everything by yourself. And it was so hard for me to switch that off. It was so hard. But I noticed, like, I've been married for 6 years now. Like, now it's just second nature for me to allow
Mm-hmm.
him to, to be that male figure in my life, and that male energy that I need. Like you
Right.
said, the balance. And so, sometimes I'm more balanced than others. Um, and it's funny that you brought up the oracle cards, because I did a tarot reading on myself the other day, and it basically interpreted as you need to eliminate the masculine energy and tap more into your feminine side. And I was like, oh wow. So okay.
Here we are again, timely conversation, right? Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's important that like it's not that you like for women, it's not that you can't do it. It's not that you can't be independent and things like that. And but sometimes we use that as a protection, right?
Mm.
It's what are we protecting ourselves from? Are we not allowing our hearts to open because we're afraid of getting hurt like at the end of it? And so I do think that it's and again, we never want to relinquish all of our masculine. We want to have this beautiful balance of it. It's just it does tend to overtake. And in relationships, it's really fun. I'm glad that you kind of brought this up because the when you connect in relationships really well, it's because you guys have similar viewpoints on things. You have similar, like you're able to have deep conversations. You can do like you connect on a spirit level. Um, and but when it comes to like connection in the bedroom, you actually need the duality. Like you sometimes like so you can have a spiritual connection and this physical connection, but you kind of have to like and so for like me and my husband, for example, it's like he doesn't always have to be the masculine either, because sometimes I think that's placed on men, which is unfortunate that they have to be the fixers, they have to be the doers, and they aren't allowed to complain about it, have emotions or anything. But like sometimes it's fun for him to completely plan a date night and me not have to think about a single thing. And that's him being able to really act in that masculine and take care of me in some way. But at the same token, I can do that too. And so like allow yourself like your part as partners play with that, let somebody else kind of take the reins sometimes, and like you can get that opportunity to pull back because ladies, like once you do start to pull back a little and let yourself be nurtured in some way, it's actually an amazing feeling.
Yeah. And it's so hard. It's hard to do, because it's our nature to be nurturers. But then we forget that we need that too. We need to feel that too. Um, so yeah, you know, that's a good point, because I don't think about it. It's like, yeah, I don't think about the fact that I need to feel nurtured. And I thought, being right now, I'm away, and being away from my husband for as long as I've been away from, this is the longest I've ever been away. And so just the energy between us now is so, I don't even know how to explain it when I get to talk to him. It's like, okay, um, it's going to be interesting to see when I do get home the shift, because I know that
Mm.
I'm a lot different than what I was 2 weeks ago, because I did do a lot of energy work and I did a lot of
Mhm.
um, reconciling, processing negative and old emotions. And so, with that, I know that he's already said, well, you seem a little different. And so, I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you do start down the path of getting more in touch with your feminine energy and your masculine energy, or whatever it may be, learning to balance it better, don't, I don't know, don't be afraid that your spouse or your significant other um, will feel a certain type of way about it. Because I didn't know how he would react to, I'm not going to say I've changed radically,
Yeah.
but, you know, that could be
Yeah.
a point of fear for people. Like, I start this, how is this going to affect my relationship?
And I do love that you're bringing that up because it is a thing and I don't want to pretend like it's not because one of the my husband actually as I went through a lot of shifts there was a point different is not always bad but different brings on a lot of fear for people like you just said and I remember my husband telling me that I love this person that you are like becoming, but I'm gonna be honest, like she kind of scares the shit out of me. And I was like, all right, yeah, I get that. I was like, well, let's talk about it. And this is the part that's missing in so many relationships, right? Like, let's open up a conversation. And it opened up this beautiful conversation that we were able to have around. And this is for anybody in your life that you don't hold people back because of fear, because you're
Yes.
afraid of losing them or you're afraid of growing apart or you're afraid if that is what is supposed to happen, then that is what's going to happen. But go into life, go into your relationships with love. Love is about unconditionally loving somebody through something and knowing that if you guys do grow apart, you had the best damn time doing it and you loved watching that person grow and transition and it's just a very different place. It's hard. It's really hard, but it's a very different place to come at things from. And when you start to grow, the problem that I see a lot is it's easier, and this is something that's been coming up a lot for me lately, is it's easier to push people away than it is to unconditionally love them.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
And so when you're in different relationships, friendships that maybe don't understand the path that you're on or the journey that you're on, it there's going to be times when it feels easier to push that person away and but like go within and see is that your ego saying this is just the easier route or is that what you really know that that is not the right like the right relationship for you, but that will happen naturally, like, but don't push people away because you think it's going to be the easier route because it rarely is.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that is so true. Because I never looked at it like that. But I know a
Well,
lot
I've
of people.
tried to do this with friends.
Yeah.
This is why I know this is very fresh for me, actually. Like friends that didn't necessarily understand um, the path that I was going down, the things that I believed in. I just sat with this not very long ago and realized that it was easier for me to try to disconnect from them, to try to push them away and say I don't need you rather than me being able to show them the same kind of unconditional love that I want.
Mm, yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was. Now I'm feeling a little convicted about some things, but yeah, that that's good. Um, so I guess like my one last question would be for a woman that may be um, at her rock bottom, and about to start this journey of getting more in touch and in tune with feminine energy and her intuition, what piece of advice would you give her?
The biggest piece of advice I would give her is don't do it alone.
Mm,
Um, And that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to pay for something, but it's there as women, we are we when you have a group of women behind you that support you and want to see you win just as much as you do, it is the most powerful thing. And this is coming from somebody who didn't used to like women, right? Because that's again something that we're taught. We're taught that women are the enemy, all of these things, they're backstabbers. No. I would like I would give up a lot of things in life, but the group of women is not one of them. And this is why like the programs that I run are groups, because there is so much power and there's so much more energy when you're on a similar path as somebody and you have people that understand. They understand what you're going through, because there's always going to be people in your life that don't. And I'm a big fan of, and I did a podcast on this a couple days ago, but it was like, don't make your circle too small, right? So, but we have to have circles where we feel supported and loved and connected, and where we can just show up authentically to pull us back to ourselves sometimes when we lose sight of who we truly are. And it's so that would be my thing is don't do it alone. Like find I mean, I do like even I do free full moon, new moon ceremonies that women can come and join on Zoom, and like different meetups, and just get in rooms with people who will support you, because it's just too damn hard to do by yourself.
It is, and it doesn't really serve you. It doesn't
No.
serve. Um, so with that, um, can you share how people can find you on social or?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place to find me is Instagram. So it's just at Stacy_Gissal. I'm sure Leah will throw it in the show notes, but it's Gissal. That is the best way to connect with me. On like if any of this resonated with you, please feel free to reach out. I don't say that as a joke. Um, and then also through my podcast, which is the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. Then you will actually get like you can text me, you can get that, like, so there's lots of different ways, but please do, like, I love connecting with new people. So that's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming and joining It Might Be podcast and sharing your expertise in this energy, this feminine energy, because it was important to me um, to learn. I've learned a lot too. And so thank you for coming and being a guest.
Oh, well, thank you, Leah. Thank you for like having this space and like really living in your purpose and allowing I'm just grateful for you for allowing me to come in and be able to talk and be completely me and authentic, and it's a very special time when you get to feel like that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I will talk to you soon on another episode. Thanks.